Do you have a workable and well-crafted financial policy for your practice? Well, if you're like most offices, you have something that your patients sign indicating how they are expected to pay for services. You know, when services are rendered, they pay, or that they're responsible for any balances and so on. Usually they sign this when they start with the practice. But that's really only half the equation. You actually need two financial policies. You need one for patients, like I just described, and you need one for your team. And the team financial policy has to detail what acceptable payment arrangements are for patients in the practice, especially with relation to major services. And that's what I want to talk about in this week's tip. I can't overstate the importance of this team financial policy. If you don't have it, it can cause all types of conflict, it can cause all types of problems. It's really important to have. It also tends to slow down the treatment acceptance process because there's no guidelines on how someone is supposed to pay. So a couple things about this. Number one, and this applies to all policy. You know, what is all policy? It's basically rules, how we need to do things, right? Or how we've discovered it's the best way to do things, or what not to do. These are all rules. These are all policy, right? Well, first off, policy has to be approved only by the doctor. This is something to know. Only the doctor owner can approve policy. If you were to take this to another business model, only the owner of the business is the person who approves. Because the owner of the business is sort of the one running the show, okay? That doesn't mean that other people can't suggest policy. Every one of your staff members could suggest policy, but it has to be approved by the owner so that all policy is coordinated. If you don't have policy in place, what tends to happen is people start to create their own, and that becomes a problem. Let me give you an example. Let's just take financial policy, because that's what we're talking about. Let's say I have no internal financial policy. There's no policy on how patients are supposed to pay. You know, what methods of payment are okay, what type of payment plans are okay. There's nothing. So I have employee A, employee B, and employee C, and they all work at the front. Employee A likes to get paid in full. They like to get prepaid. That's just so they set that as their policy. That's how they get paid. Employee B likes to get half down and half in 30 days. And employee C lets every patient pay whatever they feel like paying. So in some cases, your lab case isn't even paid for the next 2 years, okay? But they've all set their own financial policy. You have no policy. So now the problem is this. First off, you're responsible as the owner for setting policy, is you may not like some of the policies that they set, and that creates problems. They may not like some of the policies that each of them have set, and that creates conflict. Employee A doesn't like how employee B collects money. Employee C thinks employee A and employee B are mean. You could have all kinds of crazy stuff going on, okay? So you have to set the policy, because if you look at this problem, let's say you just finished a treatment presentation. There's employee A, they get paid in full. Employee B half down, employee C gets whatever. Who are you looking for first? You want to find employee A, because you'd like to get paid. Okay, employee A is out today, they're sick. Okay, where's employee B? They're at lunch. There's employee C. Oh, nuts. I think I'll wait till employee B is back from lunch, right? Because I want to make sure I get paid. But the problem is you haven't established guidelines of this is how patients are supposed to pay. The other thing that's interesting is policy helps you to detect problem employees because they don't follow it. So let's say you set a financial policy. This is how patients are supposed to pay. And employee C keeps violating it. Employee C is a problem, but if you have no policy, how do you know if employee C is a problem? So what are we talking about when you're setting a financial policy for your practice? What would be a workable policy? Well, I can give you some ideas, but this is something you should put pen to paper or really type, and it's something that you should publish. You know, and I know a lot of people worry about when they're making policy, oh, you know, I'm not a good writer or whatever. Look, it doesn't matter how it reads. I don't care if it reads like PC instructions or instructions for a blender. It really doesn't matter. It has to be clear and understandable and easy to follow. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be beautifully written. It just has to be understandable. But what might be in this financial policy? Well, the first thing would be, you know, what you expect as far as how patients pay. You know, patients can't have an over 30-day balance. That might be part of your policy. Or, you know, co-payments under $300 can be paid the day of service. You know, so if I come in and I get some composites done, I can just pay the day of at the front desk. That might be part of your policy. Again, you set these numbers, you set up how it works for you, because it's your policy. But I'm giving you some just general ideas. And then you might give some options, especially for major services, as to how financial arrangements are going to be made. Maybe you'll have some form of a prepayment discount. You know, it's a $5,000 or $6,000 case, a person can save 5%, right? But now, you know, How do they get that prepayment discount? If they pay with a check or a credit card. And I've been asked, should you let them use a credit card because you're already eating 3% with a credit card? It's still less than you're eating with third-party financing. So yeah, I would do it. But again, this is your policy, folks, okay? So you can have a prepayment discount as one option. You might have some form of in-house financing as another option. But now I'm not a fan of this unless it's very short term, okay? So let's say I'm going to pay for my case by giving you half down today and half down within 30 days. That might be fine. Or let's say the procedure's taking a little bit longer. I'm going to give you a third, and a third. 30 down, third in 30 days, and a third 30 days later, 60 days, right? That might be okay. You obviously want to get paid before we complete the procedure. That would be the ideal. And that's fine. I'm fine on those. The only piece of advice I would give you with this, and this is just something based off of what I've seen, is I would not attach, let's say if you're doing the half down and half at completion, I wouldn't attach it to completion. Because your lab, you probably have had cases in your lab, you may have some now, where you took half down from a patient to do some form of a restorative work, and then they were supposed to come in within 6 weeks to deliver the case. And then they canceled the appointment because, life throws a lot at you, and now they don't have the money. So you end up with a lab case that's in your lab for 6 months, now it no longer fits. So I'm a bigger fan of attaching that to time. So it's half down now, half down in 30 days. If it's a third, it might be a third down now, a third in 30 days, and a third in 30 days later. Obviously, they don't get the 5% prepayment discount, right? And then you always have the option to use third-party financing, and you should detail in there, which third-party financing companies that you use, and so on. I will make one little mention just with third-party financing. We work with a lot of those companies. I mean, we don't do patient financing, but a lot of our clients do. And they're great. A lot of the people in those companies are great. I'm going to give you one little warning about this in the sense that when you're doing your treatment presentation, I've seen people jump too quickly to just third-party financing when the patient would have just put it on a credit card or written you a check. So if you're talking to me and I have a $10,000 case, one thing you might want to ask me at the end of presenting the treatment is, Jeff, how would you pay for something like this? Or how would you normally take care of something like this? Let me figure it out a little bit. Maybe I'll say, could I put it on a credit card? And you go, sure, if you put it on a credit card today, you can actually save 5%. And by the way, I'm referring to the doctor having this conversation. That's a whole other discussion, but that's something that's important. And you go, okay, so then I just put it on my Visa and I save 5%. We didn't even have to go to third-party financing at that point. I say this because I've seen cases where it goes more like this. Okay, Jeff, your treatment plan is $10,000. We can do no-interest financing for you. You haven't even had me participate in the discussion as to how to pay for this yet. Isn't that a little weird? Isn't it my dental problem? Shouldn't I participate? Or I've had it where, Jeff, this case is $10,000. How would you normally take care of something like that? And I say, I guess I could put it on a credit card. You go, yeah, you could put it on a credit card and save 5%. You could also do 2-year no-interest financing. I've seen people offer that. Why would you offer that at that point? I've already told you I'm going to put it on a credit card. If I ask for it, that's a whole different story. So again, third-party financing is great, especially with these really big cases, like FMRs and all-in-4s. But I think sometimes people jump at it a little too quick when they don't have to, when the patient just would have taken care of it. So that's basically what I would have, how patients are supposed to pay, what's acceptable to pay the day of for a small copay, or, I'm a cash patient and I'm paying for my prophy day of, I'm not prepaying for that. And then I have, a series of options to follow when I'm paying for major services, paid in full, prepaid, half down, third down, whatever works for you, or third-party financing. Those are my options. Now, what I would then do, if you want to start using these things, right, is you then disseminate this information to the team members, especially the ones that need to know, your treatment coordinators, your financial coordinators, your office manager, et cetera. I would have a meeting maybe where I answered any questions, because maybe you're proposing, again, I haven't seen your financial policy, maybe you're proposing something that your team thinks is completely unworkable. Right? Patients have to pay 30 days before the procedure. It's kind of a stupid idea, but you get the idea, right? So I would definitely have a meeting to go over with everybody, answer any questions, and then roll it out. And keep an eye if there's somebody who's continuously non-compliant with your financial policy or any policy for that matter, that may be a problem employee. Which brings me to, 2 last points. What if you've had a patient who's been with the practice for, 20 years, and they've always just sent you a check when their insurance paid? They've just been like this for 20 years. They've paid you every time. You know, you do a big procedure on them, you file their insurance, the insurance pays, they just, within a week you have a check. Do you put them on this new financial policy? I mean, that's up to you. You don't have to. They've sort of, that 20 years of great performance as a patient has kind of built up credit, at least with you. Those folks, you might just let them keep doing whatever it was that they've been doing all along, and that's fine. Next point is, it's important to know this financial policy for you as the doctor too, even though you're writing it, because you want everybody thinking with this when you're presenting treatment plans, because then you have it right there and you have your options available. That's how it speeds up the treatment presentation process. All right, so it may seem like a really simple thing, financial policy, what's the big deal? Not having it can cause you a ton of conflict, lost collections, overwork. It also covers up the fact that you might have a non-performing team member. So that's my suggestion. Get that rolling as quickly as you can. And if you have any questions, you can always find us here at MGE at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Have a great week.